Greetings, Warlords. Raj here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. I'm joined once again by Shay Dunn. Shay, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Long time no speak.
Yeah, we are. This is probably coming out a week after the previous video. But we are, it's a week for you guys, but just a short 15 minutes for us. So that one is fresh in our minds. So we might end up referencing it at some point. But we are going to be talking once again about Adepticon. And you are the winner of the Age of Vikings singles event in addition to the teams. So we're going to find out how the heck you did it. Jay, many men could go a lifetime without such a feat. But your first trip to Adepticon, you managed to pull it out 2 times. So I'll just give you my congrats right up front here. And you were rolling with Irish, and I was playing Irish, so you did what I could not. So I'm going to be picking your brain here, for sure, about your tactics and strategy and stuff, and the people at home can enjoy that. So, like I said, you chose Irish. So we referenced in the previous video that basically this is the warband that you have, that your dad and you have available to use. Yeah. So there was a shooting restriction going in, however you want to phrase it, where kills count as levy. So some people, this was a very big deal, game shattering, faction breaking change. I had played it a bunch of playtest times, so I knew that honestly it didn't seem to make that much of a difference. What was your thoughts going in, and kind of were you worried about it as a shooting faction?
To be honest, I didn't worry about it really at all. My dad did the math on it, and he said you're pretty much only losing a point or 2 per squad you kill. So if you have a pretty dominant victory, it shouldn't matter too much. So I just tried my best to play the game how I normally play it and just try and get a clear win more than really worry about the individual points.
Correct. So it would matter if it ended up being a close game. Yeah. And sometimes towards the end of the game, if you need like one more point, and you're going to shoot it off, like all of a sudden you need to kill like 4 guys or something, so the math could get a little wonky at the end. But yeah, you're right. If you're shooting less than 10 models, it's maybe a point or 2 difference. Double digits, 2 or 3. If you're getting over 20, you get 4 or 5. And obviously, if you're shooting Hearthguard, to add an extra point or 2. If you bag the Warlord, that can make a big difference. So you might change your strategy a little bit when it comes to the Warlord. But it's just the victory points. It's not, if your opponent doesn't have models alive, they can't kill your guys and they can't score objectives. So I felt pretty comfortable taking Irish myself. Now, what did you decide on for 6 points?
So I did 12 warriors in one squad and 8 warriors in another squad. Okay. I did 2 Kure and a warlord. And then for my slingers, I had 3 squads, 1 of 11, 1 of 10, and 1 of 9. It's the reason they're configured like that is you essentially don't lose too many dice that way. Instead of going, I guess, like a 12, 10, and 8 run. Sure. Because it rounds up, right? So you'd be actually saving yourself on dice doing it that way.
Yeah. That is pretty close to what I was running. So I had the same levy configuration.
Okay.
I had 1 unit of slings, and the other 2 were javelins. So were you able to switch back and forth, or you just run sling? I think somebody said you were just running slings. Okay.
Yeah, my warriors were javelins though, but other than that, just slings on the levies.
Okay. Yeah, so I had a 9-pack of slings. And like you said, I didn't want to go down. I could have made the other 2 11 and then have that one 8, but it seemed like just low enough someone could come in and take out a couple. Just give me a little bit of
Yeah,
extra bodies for the saga die. And
right.
obviously the 9 rounds up to 5 shots, not bad.
Yeah,
And then 10 isn't bad because if they come into melee, that rounds up to 4 attacks.
yeah,
Once you hit the 10th one,
yeah.
and
You're
then
pretty much optimizing it that way as far as dice generation, right?
mhm. And then yeah, I had the same 2.5 warrior javelins. I did run a 9 and 11 for the extra shots. So, but you just like the 12, the extra melee attack, or you
Yeah,
didn't think about it too hard, or
yeah. The 12 was. I figured my unit of 8 was kind of going to be more of a defensive unit, and I'd
okay,
rather just have a harder hitting unit of 12. Try not to
okay,
be so aggressive with the 8. That was kind of the thought process, I guess. There.
sure, sounds good. All right, well, I can't wait to hear about the games. Now, the first one here is kind
Yeah.
of interesting. So this is a variation on Ambush from the Book of Battles. So it's 3 baggages running across the board, and people found out they can move pretty quick
Yeah.
sometimes. Surprisingly quick. So who are you lined up against in round
Uh,
1 here?
I was versing Ron Grady, and he was playing as Romans.
Rome. Oh, Manny Ballista again. Were you?
No, no,
Oh,
he did
okay.
not. No, no. He did have 2 units of 8 warriors with bow, which I
Okay.
thought kind of interesting, and a unit of 12 levy with javelin. So he was kind of more of a shooty Roman army than I've seen before.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah. So something with the abilities there encourages at least one bow warrior unit, to
Yeah.
entice you. I can't remember exactly, but interesting. So kind of against another shooting type force. Now it's pretty hard to shoot out the baggages. You would just hit them on 6s.
Yeah.
So was I don't know. Did you have a particular plan in mind? Just smash your
Um,
guys in, or
so my thought process going into the game was I was actually going to just let the guy go for the objectives while
okay, do the
I,
dirty work.
yeah, I was hoping the cows would give him a fatigue or sorry, the objectives, or they could bump into him, give him a fatigue while I just kind of sat back and shot. That was the game plan originally. But he had 2 Hearthguard um, cavalry units that could charge me right off the hop. So I ended up like normally with the Irish, I usually am a defensive army. I kind of let them come to me. But in this game, he kind of forced my hand, and I had to be the one to go get the objectives because he didn't go for them at all.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how did the train get placed for this one?
So,
What did that look like?
yeah.
I
So
mean,
you can't place down the center, obviously. So
yes,
I went for and you can only do small terrain, I believe, in this game.
yep,
Yeah.
I believe that's the case. Yeah.
So it actually kind of worked out. My opponent was really scared of Sons of Dana.
Yeah.
So I put just 2, I think, fields on his side of the board, or maybe a field in the woods. I can't exactly remember. But basically 2 small, uneven terrains so I could Sons of Dana. But he was so intimidated by Sons of Dana. I guess he's got past trauma.
Yeah, people will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid those
Right.
foreheads. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a win. If they never trigger it, but they're doing all kinds of shenanigans to get around it, that's still a win. If they're having
Yeah.
to do these contortions. Interesting.
It worked out in my favor because he pretty much had his army split in half, like half here, half there.
Okay.
Um, so I just he came in hard with the cavalry that was all on one side of the board. I ended up shooting them because they're weaker against shooting.
Easy. Yeah.
And then I just focused heavily on that half of the board while kind of trying to avoid the other half, like keep them out of the game as long as possible. Um, and yeah, so I killed pretty much. He charged me on round 1 with his cavalry, Again,
Whoa.
into
Okay.
my slingers. But they
Yeah.
were only a squad of 9 levy,
Hmm.
and I think he actually knocked a Saga dice right off the hop.
Got him.
But it didn't actually matter too much because they're only levy. They don't they're not too many massacre points, right? So
Correct. Yeah. And I don't think the Irish playing them. Yeah, I wish I had a lot more practice games, but it didn't seem like just having 5 or 6 dice made a big difference. You got the old ways, whatever that defensive ability queued up, and then the rest it just kind of seemed gravy to me. So how do you use the levy slingers? So for me, I had the javelins, so I kind of screened my warriors with them. Now,
okay.
so where would the slingers be for you? Would they be kind of behind the warriors, off to the side, or how did you like to run them?
Have you ever seen the Battle of Agincourt?
Yeah.
They're
So
they're side by side with the melee.
okay,
Archers here, melee here, archers here, melee here. That's pretty much how I ran it.
okay, just run them in a line. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you ended up scooping some of the objectives then, and
Yeah.
did
I
he
actually
have to come to you then, or
well he only had well sorry, just to backtrack
yeah,
quickly.
yeah, no worries.
I he moved his warlord on round one near my terrain, which is what he was scared of, and I hit him with 3 fatigue on Sons of Dana.
Oh
So
man, bung
maybe it
bung
was
bung.
understandable. But other than that, when he did that, he was kind of trapped in the corner with one half of his army.
Mm-hmm.
So I just killed his original, I guess, army that came in
Straight
first.
team, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was able to because that was the unit, the side of the army that was closest to the objectives. So I just spent the rest of the game killing the objectives and taking them. But he came in as close as he could with his other units. I ended up melee killing his warlord. That was the only unit I was kind of more lenient towards melee killing than range killing
Yeah,
was the
it's a
warlord.
big, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
huge
it's
difference
like
going
four
from
points or
4
something.
down to a third, yeah, just another levy. So okay,
Yeah, yeah.
cool, yeah. Well, sounds like you had everything in line for a big win, gathering those objectives, getting a warlord kill. I'm assuming your
Hmm.
warlord probably made it through
Yep,
with
yep.
some coup there, taking the advances for him. So awesome. Ah,
My
nice.
my original game plan of having the cows fatigue him and bump into him, or I keep calling them the cows, the objectives
Were
fatigue
they
him
cow
and bump.
models in your game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I keep calling
Okay.
them
Yeah.
that.
That's,
Um, it I actually reversed it on myself. I was the one taking the fatigue from them, and I was getting bumped into by them, but
yeah.
somehow it
Yeah.
still ended up working.
That's funny how the plans. I had the ancients plan. I thought everything out really well in all 3 games, and basically did the opposite in all 3 of my games. So
Of what
part
you
of
were
being a
thinking,
what's that?
opposite of what you were thinking going.
Yeah, I'll do this, and ended up doing something else instead, or letting my opponent do the thing that I thought I was going to do. Just
Right.
kind of going topsy turvy. So, well done. Yeah, part of being a good saga player is being able to think on your feet, roll with any weird situations or punches. So,
Yeah.
well done. All right, got the big win going into round 2. Who were you lined up against for this one?
I was versing DJ Andrews on his
Oh,
Britons.
Britons. Okay.
I
So
went,
have you met DJ or played against him if you've gone to Ohio or Indiana stuff?
yeah, so the first year I went to Ohio, I was actually just watching my dad that year um, and advance the colors. And DJ was actually the winner of that tournament.
Oh, cool.
He was playing Anglo Danes. So I knew going into the game I was up against a tougher opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was playing the Britons, which was a different army. I've never seen them before. They have some cool mechanics with the galvanized units. But
Yeah. So they're kind of lean towards defensive, but they do have some punch and abilities with some of their units, some movement shenanigans. Kind of he did the faction review with me, and I think I kind of ribbed him that they were Anglo-Danes on horses. So that's kind of one way to think about it. And I think it's an interesting matchup for the Irish. He has that one ability where he can get +1 armor for everything for like the entire turn.
Yeah.
So if he can, I think it maybe requires a rare or two or an uncommon or something. So it's not guaranteed, but definitely if someone's plinking at you the whole time, you're going to get that benefit for like 10 being shot at 10 times, +1 armor. That could be pretty big.
For sure, yeah.
So what was, I'm pretty fried at this point. Do you remember the scenario for round 2?
Yeah. So it was Sacred Ground. It's the objectives in the middle, and then you both have one on each side. He actually was pretty clever about how he positioned his objective. He pulled it as close to him as possible.
Sure.
And he put it in uneven terrain or dangerous terrain. So,
ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that was smart.
So it won't trigger your stuff, and then if you do make the run to get into it, if it's like uneven terrain, then you have a bunch of abilities that can key off that, play with it.
Yeah.
So it might not be a win for him moving in, but it's not going to be a win for you either. It's going to be a little tougher for both sides.
Yeah, it was smart. It was smart for sure. I just used like a woodland because playing the Irish, you want the uneven terrain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
yeah, clever.
So how did it go with the objectives then? Did you guys just fight over the middle? Did 2 of them get fought over and one, or were all 3 in play? For the whole thing.
So he actually captured his own objective in the dangerous terrain. I ended up capturing my own objective, and I just kind of ignored his objective. So I knew I was going to get less like objective points.
Yep,
but I wasn't too concerned.
It's going to be a split then. If you both have that one, it'll be even. It'll just come down to the battle in the middle, which is going to be a big open space. It's a big hill, so it's going to be a fight in the open. So maybe he's okay with that, and maybe you're okay with that as well. So who struck first in this one?
I mentioned it in the previous podcast, but I'll mention it again now, just in case anyone didn't hear. But I won bidding in every game the entire tournament. I don't think anybody wanted to bid too much. I think they were kind of scared of it. But I was more scared of being forced to go first, letting the opponent see my setup, not getting the 3 Sega dice. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to risk a higher bid to get the extra 3 Sega dice.
Okay.
So he ended up being the first player to go. And I got pretty lucky. He took his heroic unit, which was his hero and 2 Hearthguard and another Hearthguard unit.
Yeah.
And they tried to charge at my warlord. But with the Kure, you have
they have to charge. If they can charge the Kure instead, they have to. They can't charge the warlord. So either just stop or going against the Kure.
Right. So that kind of he told me his thoughts afterwards was take out my hero so I have 1 less on the old way. Yeah. And 1 less on, or I don't have We Obey, which and also a Saga dice, right?
Yeah.
So I've never versed an opponent that kind of took that approach to versing the Irish, just kind of do an economy nuke on me. But he charged in. Luckily, I had the Champions rule because of deployment, how I set my guy. I always have a coup right next to a warlord because of that reason. He ended up killing my Kure, but it wasn't the biggest deal because I ended up killing the 4 Hearthguard cavalry and his heroic unit on my first turn. So the rest of the game, he didn't have galvanized units, which I think just was, it crippled it pretty badly.
Yeah, interesting. It sounded like maybe should have moved up, and then when you said, well, actually, it's the Kure you have to charge, maybe he should have retreated at that point to fight again. But I guess it depends on what he had for Sagadice lined up. I mean, if he could pop the Kure and puts a fatigue on the Warlord, and then he could go in if he had something left in the tank. Obviously, that would have been a
I
pretty
believe that was
massive
his.
play.
I believe that was his objective, was to try and kill them both, get my old way down to just one unit.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. That hasn't happened to me yet, but I'd be very sad if it ever did.
It was kind of a surprise. I never versed someone that took that approach to versing Irish, so I was pretty intimidated at the start because I was like, "Oh shoot! Like this guy's read me like a book here." But I guess I got kind of lucky on the rolls, and I ended up killing his units too. So it worked out kind of in my favor, especially. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, good on him. It takes courage to launch those kind of attacks, especially with your Warlord and stuff like that. And sometimes the dice aren't with you. So at that point, is it just kind of a mop-up operation at that point?
I would say not entirely, because he still had a decent force. I ended up charging my unit of 12 warriors in.
Mm-hmm.
They survived with 2 guys at the end of the game, but they were getting killed and they were kind of pinned off all alone. So I was kind of on a rescue mission to get up to the middle and save those guys.
Bring our boys home.
Yeah. I guess I got overly confident once I wiped out his Warlord and his Hearthguard. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go hardcore right now with my warriors.
Sure.
But they were in more trouble than I anticipated originally, so I was kind of on a rescue mission for the rest of the game, but it ended up working out. Yeah.
You can get out ahead in Saga, but even if you wipe out a whole unit, it's not that much, not that far ahead, for someone to come back. You gotta roll dice.
It can flip so fast, right? So
awesome. Well, yeah, it sounds like another good game. Pretty interesting there to start with, but you carried on and got through it.
Mm-hmm.
So looking into round 3, who were you? I know who you were matched up against. Sean Moomey.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. Yeah. At this point, my game finished early, so I was popping over, checking things out from time to time. So this scenario was diagonal deployment, right?
Yep.
And then at the end of the game, you had to be out of your deployment zone.
Otherwise, everybody's dead.
Counted as shooting casualties. But, playing against people, it seems like they felt they had to get to the other guy's deployment zone to be safe. But you literally just had to move, a tiny amount out of your deployment zone to be safe. So you could move once, and that on turn 5 or whatever the last turn, you would be safe. There was some kind of weird special rule about killing stuff, but basically this was a pitched battle. Now Sean, was he running Romans? Is that right?
Yeah, he was running Romans.
Oh, you're getting
he did have a
full of Romans. This Adepticon here. Yeah. You keep running into them.
They're pretty popular, man. He ran a ballista, which kind of had a bit of a shock value to me at the start, because I wasn't doing my due diligence and I didn't know he had a ballista, so I didn't place any covering terrain to kind of, and I was in open ground.
So I remember, seeing your board. There was a large field right in the middle.
Yeah.
So a giant uneven piece, but a low piece. So he can just shoot his little boats completely over that. So it's not going to block anything. So you can see, just a simple, if the field or the forest was available at the time, how just swapping that piece could have had a big impact on the game. But
for sure.
Interesting. So he had the ballista? Did he have like a big archer unit?
Yeah, so he had a
levy
unit of warriors. And he had a unit of levies in front. He has an ability, I forget what it's called, but
you can shoot through them, right? Or measure from them or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So to be quite honest, on round 1, he hit me hard with his ballista, and he hit me hard with his shooting too. And I was like, oh, I might have just blew the whole thing here. Like I started getting really doubtful in my head. I was like, you know what? There has to be a way I can do this. There's got to be some way. So I ended up kind of figuring out that even though I don't have terrain to block his ballista, I
Hmm.
can use his own units to provide line of sight coverage from the ballista.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you come from a certain angle, he's got to respond, and if he doesn't want you to charge the ballista or get an angle on it, so he's going to have to defend it, right?
Yeah. So I basically was hiding behind his guys so he couldn't see me, which kind of forced his, I guess, positioning to become very awkward throughout the game. But
Mm.
it was a really close game. It was scary, man. Like he wiped out. I think he wiped out a Saga Dice in round one and round two. So I was down to 4 Saga Dice the rest of the game. It was by far the most casualties my army's gotten, which was
Yeah,
scary.
that's cool. So was he targeting the levy or trying to hit the warriors,
So
or just little everything?
he was targeting my unit of 9 levy slingers,
Okay,
partially because they were the only people in line of sight of him for most of the
sure.
game. I tried my best to block my unit of 12 warriors, but I think I overshot it because they didn't really get to make any action until the last couple rounds there.
Sure. So they weren't. He was kind of having a little. It's kind of like Sons of Dana, where you're your opponent's playing against it, but they're taking themselves out of the game a little bit, or it's to your advantage. You're
Yeah,
not getting the hits off because you're so worried about. I'm sure the Manu Ballista getting the big shot off on them. Interesting.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, sounds like a slug match here, but obviously you came out on top somehow. So what was there a pivotal moment?
Yeah, yeah. I realized I probably wasn't going to win on massacre points. Um, Playing a traditional just kill
Hmm.
battle. So I realized the best thing for me to do was to take the middle ground and keep bouncing his units back with charges.
Okay, yeah, all right. So make it difficult for him to get out of his deployment zone at the end of the game. Is that the
Yeah,
idea?
yeah, essentially. The only, like I said, the only unit I killed in melee. Well, I did some fighting throughout the game, but the only unit I was adamant on killing in melee was his warlord.
Hmm.
But I actually did the most meleeing I've ever done in this game, specifically because I wanted to. Every time he got in, I would charge him, and he would have to bounce kind of backwards.
Hmm.
So he had, I forget what they're called. They're some sort of cavalry unit that can only move 6, and they've got armor against shooting.
Okay, cataphracts. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
they got +1 armor against shooting. So it's Hearthguard with armor 5 instead of armor 4.
yeah.
So obviously, probably, hopefully, made a difference of some sort for him in this game. But were you trying to pling those guys or?
You know what? I was actually like my originally I didn't know they had that armor, so I kind of wanted to kill them, but they were the only guys out of his spawn area
Hmm.
or the death area at the end of the game. So I actually just tried to ignore them because I figured I'm not going to be able to hit him enough to kill the unit anyways.
Sure.
So I kind of just tried my best to limit casualties from those guys. Um,
Sure.
and that's all I really could do against them. So I was trying to keep everybody away from them as much as possible while also staying away from the ballista. They came from both different sides.
The pincer.
So I ended up choked in the middle, but it kind of worked out in my favor uh, just because I had so many guys in the middle. I could just keep using them to bounce his guys back.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, I mean the heroes are great at that. They're going to
yeah,
win the melee, as long as they kill one person and don't
yeah,
die themselves. So, yeah, that's actually a really good strategy. It works really well, surprisingly well, because once you get down to you're on the if you're on the receiving end, you have these units of 1, 2, 3 guys, or 4 or 5 levy. They're not generating a saga dice.
yeah,
Now you have to like spend Saga Dice to like move them out at some point, or they'll count as destroy. It becomes a really big tax if you're getting your teeth kicked in, and then all of a sudden you have to spend Saga Dice to like move guys out of your deployment zone, or else they're going to be. They're always invariably you're like, well, I can't do it this turn. I'm just going to have to just leave them there and try to win the game, and then I'll worry about it at the end. But it quickly, you quickly run out of time, run out of dice. So did he spend his dice to get a man, or did he end up with models, in his zone at the end?
Yeah, the only units that he actually got out were the Hearthguard Cataphract.
Okay.
Everybody else I managed to keep kind of at bay, pinned down in the spawn zone. But I think what really kind of decided the victory for me was it was really close. You said you saw kind of at the end, but
yeah, there's big dead bodies. Although I couldn't tell who was alive, who was dead.
Yeah, so I kind of had an option to make where I either took my levy that were still in my spawn and my warriors that were still in my spawn, and I go for his Hearthguard Cataphract, or I move up and just risk them hitting me again. And I kind of just decided, you know what? 2 kills isn't going to be enough points anyways. I'd rather just save my units at the end of the game. So I ended up just sacrificing taking hits and not shooting back to just get my guys.
Get them out. Take the guaranteed points. And, he'll have an opportunity to try to kill him or push him or, whatever he's going to do. But it's the points that you have, when it's your turn. So interesting. Well, yeah, Sean is a great opponent. He won 2 years ago, I believe. He was playing Irish, so he knew what he was up against. But it sounds like you properly changed your strategy, and it worked out in the end. So, yeah, once again, thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
So, well done. It wasn't just a static gun line shooting everybody off like some people might imagine. Maybe.
No, it was really tough in that sense. Like most games with the Irish, you can either shoot people or let them come to you. And then once you start getting an advantage, you can kind of start moving up. But this game, I was kind of on the back foot the first half of the game, really. So I really had to.
Yes.
And I started getting really doubtful. I was like, oh, man, like, I don't know. But I eventually figured it out. And, yeah, to be honest, I think I had a lot of beginner's luck throughout the whole tournament. Like I got lots of saves, lots of high rolls on my shooting and whatnot. So that was a huge factor as well.
Sure. Yeah, I know anybody who ends up on the top is going to have some lucky occurrence. You can look back and you'll see some lucky occurrences, but it's making smart decisions throughout the whole event that will yield those results. So in the end, you were able to come out on top and do what I dreamed of myself, but I get to live vicariously through you and your Irish. So well done on that. And congrats to your dad. You guys have really demonstrated your Saga mastery here.
He won 2 awards as well. I think most massacre and most objective points. So
so he came in right behind you at the end. 3 wins as well, running his levy, and you were just a few battle points ahead of him at the end. So got to take that, and well done. Well-deserved victory. Certainly going up against some tricky opponents here, and with the shooting handicap as well. So I think anybody can take this one away from you. Well done, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, are you what's in the cards for you in the future here? So we referenced the other video that you won big with the Irish back at the ATC, done the teams. Is it time to hang them up, or are you looking at other factions here?
I think I'm gonna just quit while I'm ahead, to be honest.
this is the end. You can't get any better. So
no, we're 100%. If things work out, we're 100% gonna want to come back to Adepticon next year and advance the colors. It's kind of hard because we have Canadian Thanksgiving, but
Oh, sure. Yeah.
we try and we're gonna try and just keep going as much as possible. We can't get enough of this game right now, to be honest. It's I used to think Bolt Action was the best
Oh, yeah. There's a
board
little
game. But I
crossover
think,
there. Yep. A lot of people play
this
Saga and Bolt Action, but
opposite.
awesome. Glad to hear. Well, yeah, for your first Adepticon, definitely gonna be hard to top, but we'll see you next year. Are you guys interested in the other ages of Saga
I
and
think
doing
my dad's
more
looking
than
at making
2 years?
Age of Magic. I
Okay.
don't know if he's gonna do it, but it's in the talks. He's also painting Crusader armies right now, so that's gonna be pretty cool. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Right. Well, yeah, I can't wait to see what you can do with some other factions here. But yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on, share the goods on how the battles went. I'm sure it's interesting for everybody to listen to and hear. And yeah, it's not many
I
armies that
appreciate it.
can make the Irish sweat on the first turn. But you went up against two of them in this event here. So
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
stick it out.
yeah.
So. Yeah.
Sorry,
Any
I was gonna say,
closing thoughts here for you?
appreciate you inviting me onto the podcast. It was really exciting for me when you reached out to my dad to ask us if we want to get on. I was like so excited. I was like, hell yeah, I'll jump right in for sure.
Awesome. Oh, good deal. Yeah, it was great to have you on, and hopefully we can chat further, be it about further tournament wins or maybe different faction reviews or something like that.
Yeah,
Obviously, you're
yeah.
a skilled chap, got some interesting thoughts and knowledge, and yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. Now, at this point, you should be signed up to the Discord. So, you know what? I'll get your username and I'll post it below. So if people want to message you or something on the Discord,
For sure.
we can get that going. But I just want to thank Terry, Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Scott, Frank, Britt, DJ, and the rest of the Saga Thursday patrons. Wouldn't be doing these additional videos without you guys. I really appreciate it. Definitely comment below. Yeah, we'll also monitor the comments here. So if any questions about the games or strategies, tactics, what have you, definitely post below. We'll get back to you. But I think that's going to be it for this one. Shay, once again,
right.
Thanks for coming on. It's been a blast. Cool
Thank
guy.
you, sir.
And yeah, I'll talk to you real soon. All right. Bye-bye. Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.